as per the recommendation as written
Yes, it is.
for bullet intent.
Except that we probably need to actually include a councillor's name in number 2.
Yes.
And my suggestion, if
So, sorry, so we have a seconder at this stage? Councillor O'Connor? Yes, right.
and
And you'll have to get an agreement from Councillor O'Connor on your suggestion.
yes, I'm sure I will, but I would suggest we have Councillor Alefris as the councillor delegate if he is willing to accept that.
How long do I have?
You just, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, Councillor. So that,
And if Councillor O'Connor accepts including Councillor Alefris's name from it.
Well, Mr. Mayor, could I just raise a point of order, please, right now?
all right.
That every time that councillor O'Connor tries to say something, councillor Trembath is telling him what to say, and I want that to cease. I want it noted in the minutes, please. Thank you.
So I think at this stage, right, could I suggest that we leave the name out
Yep,
of 3 at this stage?
I'm happy with that.
Right, we have a seconder, okay,
We just leave it
and
as
no,
written as a councillor.
we go to a
delegate.
committee of the whole to
Yeah.
have that discussion, and
Okay,
if there's a secret ballot or whatever, we can go there. So could I have someone, can I have someone move into committee of the whole, seconder please? Thank you, councillor Evans. Committee of the whole, do we have any nominations for a council delegate to the Financial Assistance Program Evaluation Panel, please?
I'll repeat my nomination.
Yes, you've nominated. You
I'll
have
second that.
second that, fine. Any other nominations? Sorry?
I would like to speak against that.
Let's wait on. So councillor Graham has nominated councillor Tremba. Right, any other nominations?
I was going to nominate Ian.
No.
Well, I would decline, and I was thinking that yeah, if it was me, we probably wouldn't.
Get anyone.
Any.
I'll nominate Clive.
Okay, so at
I
this
can
stage,
nominate Clive.
And I'd also say that there might be other
Will you
councillors.
accept that, Clive?
Yeah, I'll give it a go.
Thank you.
right, so I assume, just get this right, we've got councillor Leveris, Trembath,
McCarthy.
McCarthy. To the chair,
Just through the chair, and while we want to complicate things more, the mayor also has to provide the delegate,
yeah.
whether that is himself, herself, or another councillor. And that needs to be also included in the resolution, I would suspect.
Am I allowed to speak in just generalised? I had issue previously when we changed from having this, the mayor, the general manager's review done. And I found that the panel was just removing any kind of, whole of council decision. I am still not in favour of any panel, to be completely honest, but I'm also not in favour of certain individuals, because I don't feel that things are going to be done fair and just, and that's my statement in this as just a conversation. But that's why I've nominated councillor McCarthy, because if I can have a conversation, it's the free for all.
all right, do we want to vote of hands on this between the 3 candidates?
Yeah, if I move that we vote by hand. Who wants to second it?
Committee of the whole.
Second.
Committee of the whole.
The committee of the whole. All right. So we have, you can only vote for one. Please.
Let's stop going there for a second.
Don't confuse it, guys.
Right. So for appointment to this panel, all those in favour of councillor Alevris? All those in favour of councillor Trembath? Two, three, you saw?
Yeah.
Three. All those in favour of councillor McCarthy?
I can't vote.
You can't vote again.
Oh, sorry, councillor Patino.
I voted for Tony.
Yeah, oh,
McCarthy, you voted for yourself, didn't you?
No.
he voted for Tony.
Tony, right,
And
okay.
you said not to
But
vote.
that's all right, yeah.
Four,
Four,
three,
and there's 8 of you.
8 of us.
Mhm. Did you vote for?
Someone hasn't
Tony.
voted.
No, I
Yeah.
think you miscounted.
You miscounted.
I think you're 5 for Tony.
5, okay.
Yeah.
5, 3, all right. So, councillor Leveris?
Mhm.
All right, thank you. Someone
I'll
take us
move
back
back in.
to,
Mr. Mayor, before you go back in, you have to nominate on
I have to nominate now, right?
Well, it's either yourself or a delegate, you make that decision, you're there.
I'll nominate councillor O'Connor. You happy? Thank you.
Are you being funny today? I like your being funny today.
No, right, so can I, on that basis, can we move back? Can
Yeah,
someone
I'll
move
move
us
us
back
back.
into
Thank you.
normal session of council? Thank you. Yeah, second, please. Councillor, right, thank you. So the recommendation, I believe, the motion at this stage, if I can just clarify, is that council endorse the updated financial assistance policy 2209, incorporate the changes in the development 2205-26 operational plan. 2 is that council Leveris be the delegate to the financial assistance program evaluation panel as nominated by councillors. I think we need a new 3, which is the mayor has nominated councillor O'Connor as his representative delegate to the financial assistance program, and 4, delegate authority to the general manager to make minor amendments if required. Are we happy with that?
So do I now get to speak to the motion?
Yes, if you're happy with that wording.
Yes, I'm happy with that word.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
In a moment, but I'll speak in the meantime. It was just that, yeah, I do think the amended policy is better than the one, so it would be great to have it in place before this next round of donations. And I particularly think that it is useful to have what's effectively a subcommittee with the evaluation panel that can look at all the applications in more detail rather than council trying to go through everyone. That's all. Thank you.
Who was the second one? Councillor O'Connor. You're happy with it? Further discussion? No, I put the motion as per on the board, on the screens. All in favour? Thank you. Passed unanimously. 13.11 is Central Tablelands Weeds Authority funding request. As I've indicated at the beginning of the meeting, I do have opinion, but I don't believe it's significant, and I don't believe it affects this decision, as I've indicated. Okay, the recommendation. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I've got a alternative motion.
You've given it to the.
Give it to Sharon.
We're gonna go strange bracket.
Do you need it on his screen?
No.
You can start reading it while.
A recommendation that council seek tenders for a schedule of rates from contract weed spraying companies for council consideration for future roadside weed spraying services. The rate schedule being based on 3-year program, total kilometres road map defined, including necessary processes and procedures. The summary is very brief. There's been limited roadside weed spraying conducted. Oh, I need a second, sorry.
Do you have a second? Councillor Trimmer, thanks.
Summary. It's very brief. There's been limited roadside weed spraying conducted in the Oberon LGA in the last 2 years. to control of noxious weeds impacting farmers' biosecurity control, driver safety and public amenity are at risk. The Central Tablelands Weed Authority themselves admit weed control services provided by the County Council is not a core business of the County Council. The average cost per kilometre quoted by the County Council is $514.37. Reputable contractors have advised their rate for roadside weed spray would not exceed $250 a kilometre, inclusive of chemical. That's less than half the rate quoted by CTWA. Oberon Council cannot afford to continue to subsidise CTWA's inefficiency, roadside weed spraying, poor management and control. Our council cannot afford to waste $60,000 to $80,000 a year and also have roadside weed spraying being neglected. There will also be a need to catch up over the next 3 years, combating the additional cost to be borne by council.
Thank you. Councillor Member.
No, I fully support the motion because I do believe where we're heading. I think we addressed this in the last term about the 3 years being extended to 4 years, and we didn't make up our mind whether we were going to contribute to it, and now we're back at the same place again. So it is only something that they do. It's not their core business. So I think it's something that we probably should manage ourselves.
Councillor Hayden.
Yeah, I would like to foreshadow the original, but I would also like to make a statement in regards to this motion. Thank you, Councillor O'Connor, for your motion. Thank you, Councillor Trumba, for being a seconder. This is something that I wanted to move as an amendment to the original. However, we're going to need a foreshadow should this current motion fail, so I'm foreshadowing back to the original. But I am actually speaking in favour of the current motion that's put before us because I also am not happy with the Central Table and Weeds Authority's spraying costs, ratios, and the constant excuse that I keep hearing about is Oberon's higher than this one because our terrain is different. Well, I'm sorry, terrain, regardless of the terrain, the kilometre distance is still a kilometre distance. And I will always say that, but I am in support of the current motion as it sits before us. Thank you. I would like to see some tenders applied for. Otherwise, we could do it in-house.
Further discussion, councillor. My only comment is we're talking, the motion talks about a schedule of rates, and I'm not sure how that's going to be applicable to kilometre. We're asking for a schedule of rates.
Rates per kilometre.
Okay, I thought when we normally talk about rates, it's hourly rates.
Sorry.
So noting that this obtaining requests for tenders is going to take some period of time, what do we do in the intermediate period? Because we probably won't get requests for tender back and evaluated prior to April, and basically the window is closing for winter for spraying along that.
Just to comment on what you mentioned about the kilometre rate, that could be decided whether it's an hourly rate, but it works back to a kilometre rate. So whether Gary understands what I'm saying. It's when I was talking to contractors, they're happy to do it on a kilometre, but we'll be guided by how Gary puts the tender out. Thanks.
But all right. The second question is, what do we do? Because if you're an RFT and we get pricing back, we're looking at least 4 to 6 weeks.
Well, it's in such a mess now. I just defer. That's what I do, and get cracking. Just get cracking. Put our efforts into getting the right contractors.
Mr. Mayor.
Sorry, Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think your possible timeline to call tenders and get results back might be extremely optimistic. I think it would take at least that long, even just to prepare tender documents. I think there's a lot of work just in doing that. Your question of what happens in the meantime is valid. I would also be surprised if potentially savings from going out to private contractors are as great as suggested. I wonder if that might be based on people thinking they can just drive along and that it's just like roadside grass spraying, but the actual noxious weed spraying needs quite a lot of expertise to identify different types of weeds and know what sorts of chemicals are used in each case. And yeah, I would be surprised if there are that amount of savings available. I might be proved wrong, but that's another of my concerns. And I also have a question of if we were to go out private, and if we did find there were savings and we used a private contractor, where does that leave us in relation to CTWA? Does that mean we're no longer a member, or what happens there?
No, we still contribute in relation to the enforcement and compliance. So just the road spraying part will be taken out. The other question I think we need to consider is the mapping material and all the road identification is with CTWA. So how do we build up that database internally with Oberon? Not sure of the solution to that. I'm not sure what, I wouldn't, until we go up to tenders, we wouldn't know, but I'm not sure what safety requirements are going to be imposed on these contractors, which may or may not increase costs. Sorry, yes.
I support the idea of getting tenders, but I think we're too late to do that now. I think we should go with the recommendation and then next time make sure we're ready with tenders for the next season. Because I can see the time lag. The time is almost over. I should have done the tenders in October at least, because you're missing the window of being able to kill the weeds.
So can I suggest maybe an amendment to your proposed motion that would be an amalgam of what's currently there and what's there, but I'll leave that open.
Well, I guess to follow on that argument, the
Point of order, Mr Mayor, code of meeting practice is councillor now speaking as his right of reply.
Yep. Yes, he is.
That means no one else will get the opportunity to speak.
so can I continue?
Yes.
So with regard to the current of the motion in front of us and the $50,000, we probably need to go back to them and get a timeline and a definitive when the work's going to be complete, because that hasn't happened in the past. Okay. And then in terms of the question regarding cost, when I sought other contractors, they gave me a maximum $220 for blackberry, tussock, etc. So that covered all weed spray that's happening now. I said $250 just to put an extra 10% on.
Okay. But your motion as currently set,
Yeah.
which has to be put, is as per what's written there. It doesn't
So,
refer to
okay.
the.
So point 3 could be,
Point of order, Mr Mayor, code of meeting practice breach. We have
You can't-
had a right of reply.
You've had a
No
right of
further
reply,
debate
that's
can
it,
be on suit. Thank you.
Yes.
I foreshadowed. Mr Mayor, I foreshadowed, Mr Mayor.
So you've done the right. So you can put the contract.
Yeah.
That doesn't stop it. Well, there's a bit of thing show.
All right, I'll put the motion. All in favour? The motion as on the screen.
Yeah.
All in favour? Councillor O'Connor, councillor Hayden. Against? Other councillors, right. We now have a foreshadowed motion. For councillor Hayden, first, I think it was, yes. Sorry.
Yes, as per the original motion, Mr Mayor.
Is that a seconder?
Yes.
Councillor Everest?
Yep.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I have always had a few concerns around the allocation of funding to Central Tablelands Weed Authority. In this, I would like a slight amendment if I could, if the seconder is amenable to that. that, point 4, that we, get further reports from Central Tablelands Weed Authority about their spray program. We want to make sure that this money that gets paid to these guys, that they're actually going to be doing the work. So many sections of our road, like there was so much failure there, and then the amount that they were charging us was way more than other councils. So I'm just wondering whether we should have a point 4 in there.
Happy with that? Okay, speaking against it, I would like to propose an amendment to your motion. What have we got now, 4 or 5, 4 points? I would like to propose the motion as you've said, but a 5th point, that council investigate for the 2025-26 period, issuing a request for tender to potential contractors to undertake the work directly for council on roadsides.
Yeah, I
And-
accept that.
Sorry, and then do on receipt of those tenders, come back to council with a comparison as against the TWA costings.
Yeah.
You know,
On mine, it's just that if you're going to put an expression of interest or request a tender out, wouldn't CWTA be one of those people that would put their tender in if that was the case?
well, they can.
Mr. Mayor, could we have that portion that you have, just mentioned? I think point 4 will become obsolete if we have the point 5 in there in its place.
If you're happy with that?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be an amendment if you two are both happy with it.
Yeah, just saying.
Because I think it's achieving
Yeah.
what we all probably
Yeah.
believe is necessary, and I think it takes account of councillor O'Connor's original concerns and group. But I think it allows us to continue the program to at least get some done.
Yeah.
All right.
Can I just make a comment? I think point 4 is absolutely critical for
Oh, well,
us.
then put it back in there.
Yes.
For me, the
Yeah.
reason behind that is that we need to
We need a
understand
report. Yeah.
what that is, and a condition, and a resolution of council to say this is what I'm
Yeah.
requesting helps when I go to the
Okay.
general manager and ask those questions.
Yeah, okay. Happy with that. And it's the second one.
Sorry.
Councillor Tucker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I always had a couple of queries on this recommendation as was printed, so now's the time to ask them. Firstly, when it says $50,408 from the technical services allocation, I'm just curious to know where or which bit of the technical services allocation that would come from. Does it mean it would come from roads maintenance, or because I'm not aware that there's such an allocation that's just called technical services, or is it utilising savings from having vacancies, or if we can get an explanation on that, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, certainly,
So,
general
so
manager.
through the chair, council resolved to put an additional $150,000 into the technical services allocation through QBR1.
Mm-hmm.
And that was for projects that were council would consider to be appropriate and consistent within assisting the technical services area. This is taking a portion of that 150 and including it into the, which is why it's called technical services allocation, because that's how it was presented in QBR1.
Thank you. So it's not reducing anything from any particular capital project or from any maintenance allocation.
Through the chair, what it'll do is reduce 150 to 100, which potentially affects what we could otherwise do in that space.
Yeah, what you were thinking of doing with that 150.
Correct.
And I was also curious as to, there were comments about removing roads from the urban areas. Are they not a CTWA responsibility in urban areas? Mr. Mayor?
I did see clarification on that, and they have been removed in the 60 days that seem to be council responsibilities, yes.
Through the chair, my issue back to them was removed from the mayor was that, well, why were they included in the SLA to start with?
That's right.
If that was the analysis. I think what it does is the commitment to include an expanded allocation recommendation gives council then the opportunity to do exactly what it's been talking about now. So let's have a conversation about it outside of standard meeting of council, so we understand where we sit. And that allocation could be spent in a number of ways.
But so if CTWA are not going to do urban roads, does that mean we will need to train staff up and have equipment to do the noxious weeds in urban areas ourselves?
Either that or engage a contractor through a strategic approach that we look at to have that included.
Right, so either way, whatever we might have saved by eliminating those roads, we're going to lose again by doing them some other way.
Through the chair, the concern raised by my end when I have a look at those numbers is if that's now an appropriate way of dealing with the first section, when the original numbers were put in, if they were taken out, it would have been higher.
Yeah, so if the total cost has been reduced by not having those urban roads in the program, but we are still going to have to do them one way or another.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah. And just comment in passing that I'm a little bit confused about the program being 3 or 4 years. It seems to me that recommendations number 2 and 3 are slightly contradictory. So I'm not quite clear where we are at with whether we're going up to 4 years or how long we're going to be on a 4-year program, or, you know, I'm not proposing any changes. I'm just mildly confused about.
Through the
3 or 4 years.
You're not the only one. I've had to work on it for a little while. 2 other councils have gone about changing a program over 3 years to 4 years to simply mitigate the money spent in those periods. However, we're well aware that a 3-year program is much better than a 4-year program. So in order to adequately address the 50,000 spend rather than 100,000 spend, if we say we do it over 4 years, I can ask Central Tablelands Weeds Authority to give me the breakdown of what that now looks like over a 4-year period. And then in that time, we can look at trying to bring that back to a 3-year program.
Because, and that's my point, because I'm just concerned that if we leave it at 4 years permanently, it may actually be more costs in the long term than having a 3-year program in the long term, because the weeds spread more in that time.
Certainly in my question asking, the 3-year program should be a maximum that we look at, with the 4th year being starting in that first.
I think we all agree it should be a 3-year program if possible. Councillor McCarthy.
My question's been answered by Councillor Duckett's inquiry. Thank you.
The only comment I would make, councillors, is that in relation to point 2, I think point 2 needs to be subject to us making a final determination in 25-26 whether we remain with CTWA or we undertake the road spraying ourselves. So I would ask that the movement seconder add some words to that extent, added the word after 4 years, subject
Subject to council decision.
council decision as to whether remain with CTWA from 25-26 onwards. Or something similar.
Whether to remain with the CWTA is all you need to put it on really.
Through the chair, there is a number of steps we need to go through before we get to that. And equally, you need to remember you are part of a county council. CWTA has a specific. CTWA has a specific set of requirements in order to in fact remove itself from. This is purely relating to the roadside weed spray.
It's just the weed road.
Well, we'll make it subject to
Spraying. That's all we need.
council determining to remain with the CTWA roadside program.
It says that there. It says that there.
Wouldn't it be better to say after consideration of the tenders?
No.
They can tender.
No, I like it as it is because it's clear. Subject to council decision as to whether to continue with the CWTA roadside weed program.
CT.
I didn't type that.
But I think if they tender and win, we're remaining with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And we have our options. And to make our own decisions. It's 3 years.
Yeah.
I'll just leave this a minute so we can have some discussion, just to make sure we've got the wording correct, if there's any changes.
Yeah, through the chair, the only rationale around two changing it from a 3 to 4 is how the 50,000 has been allocated in that space to complete section 1. So we're not creating more burden on section 2. So ultimately what we'd be looking at is doing one section over the 2 years, utilising that 4-year program being the first 2 years taking up the first allocation, and us looking at what that looks like moving forward in a strategic place for a 3-year program moving forward.
I'm happy with the current wording.
Second, are you happy?
You want to reply?
Any further discussion? Yeah, all right.
So, Mr. Mayor, so just to clarify, the $50,000 to be spent, that's to be spent in the next few months.
Through the chair, that would be correct. That would be to complete section 1.
Yeah.
Without the urban road component.
Any further discussion? You're right with that, Sharon? I think it's all up, isn't it?
Right,
You want to write a reply?
So thank you, Mr. Mayor, and everyone for adding to that. I think this gives some clarity and it's clear. It also gives a message to Central Tableland Weeds Authority that we're unhappy with how things have progressed and that we are considering other options moving forward. So this is clearly giving them that information in that brief. Thank you.
All right, no further discussion. I put the motion as per the 5 points on the screen. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We go to reports for information, 14.1. As we had a break at about 7:30, I'm not intending to have another break from
Until
10:30 or 11 or something, yes, I think I'll push ahead. 14.1, monthly activity report, general manager, December 2024 to January 2025. The recommendation is that report item 14.1 is received as information. Mover, please. Councillor Hayden, seconder, please. Councillor Trembath, are you scratching your ear or seconding it?
Councillor Grant.
Councillor Grant. Oh, sorry. Councillor Grant, thank you. Councillor Hayden.
I'm just going to my notes on my computer because I've got to scroll a bit further in the book, sorry. 14.1, general manager, yes. Right, so I noticed that the planned activity with the overview of the 355 committee's manual, will that manual be coming to council sometime in the future to go over? And I gather it's just going to be a manual that's just off the model, or is it going to be a separate?
Yeah, so through the chair, we already have a manual, a 355 manual. It generally aligns with people who are on committees. As we stated, having trouble and difficulty to attract people to committees, so we're going to try and do a direct approach to people. Then we'll bring our report back to March in regard to one, the manual, and two, the members to be supported into those committees.
One of the issues that I brought up with our corporate services director, Mr. General Manager through the mayor, is that I've had some of the past committee members that have also put forward expressions of interest to be on the committees, and some of them have been concerned because we've got buildings like the Hazel Grove Schoolhouse out on the school reserve and other things with Hall Committee that need to get some recommendations coming through to council to get some resolution, to get some actionable items approved and kicked off. And I think if we keep waiting, it's just going to keep blowing out. We'll be in the middle of winter and we're not going to have our committee set up and we're not going to have certain things done. And I'm just wondering whether it would be more proactive that at the next, March meeting, that we put this forward for the 355 committee, 355 committees and have councillors, because we're all part of the committees, to go out and be proactive and speak to residents and see if they want to be on these committees. And it should be part of our process anyway. Like, we can be proactive and get that happening. So we can always just have our committees up and running so that they're actually working.
And my comment is don't wait till March.
I've already got a heap of people, they've already done their submissions, so.
So it's purely, we're having trouble getting community members to sit on these things, and we want to go and do a little bit more rather than me bring back a report and say, oh, by the way, there's no community members on it, so why do we have it? Like, we recognise the value, we just want to have those conversations before we bring back a report.
Yeah, now, on the management of the Oberon Sports, Complex workshop, management of the Oberon Sports Complex workshop.
Yep.
Management of the Oberon Sports Complex workshop. So the workshop up at the sports complex.
I know we're proposing a workshop to be had with councils.
Right.
The management of the new sports facility.
Right, yeah. So, because that could be taken several ways, and I sat on that and I thought, are we putting a workshop up at the Oberon Sports Complex to actually, so it was just, maybe have a workshop on the management of just the wording had me a bit confused. So what has happened around the management of that? Have we had applications since that last notice was put out about manager for the sport?
So I've received a letter from the management of the existing Leagues Club about oversight, and it's a decision for council to make as part of our priority plan. We've always said we're going to come back and have a look at how that operates and what council see as the appropriate way for that to operate.
Yeah.
We've received some correspondence from the existing Leagues Club, and the workshop is to seek council's ideas around what that should look like.
Yeah, okay, so I want to thank you, Mr. General Manager, through the Mayor, because this was going to raise the same issue that I raised earlier at the beginning of the meeting when I mentioned that the 13th of January, that the Oberon Leagues Club had sent through that correspondence, and they had no correspondence in return, and also in this there is no correspondence in your brief there as well. So they do feel like no one's taking them seriously. So now that you've raised that, that's great, and I'm hoping that someone can get back to Vanessa and shoot an email off to her and acknowledge that her letter's come through and that it just hasn't come through and been ignored. Now,
through the chair, I don't provide commentary on all the correspondence I get because there's not enough pages in the.
No, I don't.
It's just meetings, so that would have never come up in mine. What we said is that this is very important to council, and we want to do it appropriately. So that's what we're trying to do.
No, that's all right. I hear that and I accept that. It's just, she has not had a response to say that her email has been received.
All right, I'm happy to take that on to say there's we've received it. Thank you very much. The workshop is being prepared.
Thank you. That would
February,
be,
March for
that would be
council
very good.
to look at a way ahead for the management of this facility and which way we should go.
Thank you. That would be very suitable. Now, on the 19th of December, I note that you've got here the council inspection, Oberon Sports Complex. And I probably have harped on, and I will harp on again for probably 50 seconds. I'm not going to prolong it, but I like the sports complex. I think it's great. I think downstairs is great as well. And it has come to light over the period of a week where those individuals that had mentioned previously that the sports club was going to be the right size, and I have harped on that it is not an adequate size, because should one proponent who has a license that also has gaming machines, happen to go in there. I'm not saying they are or they aren't, but there doesn't seem to be the adequate room for a members area, poker machine room, and a function area. So that has now been significantly discussed with other people have discussed it between themselves, because they brought that up and they said, it's not big enough. And I said, I've said that all along. But anyway, I don't like to say I told you so to people, but as a council doing a one-off generational project, which means it should be suitable and functional for the next 50 years, I really think we might need to talk to the guys doing it, the builders and those with the planning, and see if there is any opportunity or how much it may cost if we have to extend out that southern side to have adequate room for that to be a functional club. So I really am serious when I say that, because we need to make sure that it's going to have room for functions, members room, poker machine room. So this is something I'm just hoping that the
Can we
committee can
leave this to the
possibly.
workshop. I think it can
Yep,
appropriately write to
okay.
the workshop.
So that's great. And now moving on to the 30th of January. I gather that was a meeting, Mr. General Manager, through the Mayor with Tatiana Coulter about Opta's direction.
Yep.
And I gather that's similar outcome to what was in the letter that came out from yourself the other week about delegates and that not happen to attend Opta, or was it another discussion?
Our conversation was about moving the MOU forward and what that looked like.
Right.
And the strategies that Opta wanted to put in place to make sure that Opta had some meaning and was effective to all, and
Yeah.
that was the discussion that was held.
Yep. Oh, no, that's good. I also like how they're going out to videoing all the businesses. That's rocking as well. Now, 3rd of February, just wondering, as another councillor, Councillor O'Connor had a meeting with you on an update on council matters. Can you clarify any of that?
Originally, the councillor O'Connor come and asked about where some resolutions were up to.
Thank you. 4th of February, Mayor and Councillor discussion. I don't understand that one.
Through the chair, the mayor and I have discussions all the time.
But it's just listed as a meeting. It says Mayor and Councillor discussion 4th of February. Like yeah.
There are discussions about a number of things.
No clarification, because you've had a meeting.
Can I take it on? I'm happy to take it on notice.
Could you email me clarification of that? Because I note that you probably wouldn't have it down there if it was just your generalised day-to-day chit-chat or discussion about something. So it's the 4th of February.
I actually think that discussion in revolt related around the Central Tablelands Weeds Authority and the approach we're going to have in the
There
meeting.
was a number of things.
There was a thing to that, yes.
Yeah, I just wanted some clarity around that, that's all.
It was the same day we met with, same day we attended funeral and same day, yeah, there was a number of issues that day.
Okay, 7th of February, is it appropriate to ask about that legal update? I know it's in here, so it might not be confidential. Is it confidential? Can it be mentioned in this council regarding Agnew and Moray?
I'm happy to give you information
In confidential? Okay. 10th of February, social and economic meeting. Who was that with?
10th of February.
That was a discussion I think we had in relation to sending out some letters.
The social and economic meeting was a meeting we had about formulating the appropriate responses to the agencies around the resolution of council in December.
Remember there was a
Yeah, no, I've read the emails and I'm fully aware of that. I just, wondered what the meeting was and who was engaged in the meeting. So it's just yourself and the mayor, and that's fine. 11th of February, Abercrombie Road discussion with Anthony Houlihan. Was there any positive outcomes out of that? And is there anything that you can discuss openly in the council?
Well, I might,
discussion was held with Councillor McCarthy, the mayor, and our technical services director, and some recommendations and some actions out of that meeting were to occur.
Will we get a report on that in due course or at any time? Or
Well, I think there's
councillors ask
continuing
about the
reports
time?
on Abercrombie Road.
Yeah,
This is part of that, engaging with Mr. Houlihan. And I think there was going to be a joint inspection of the road with the director and with Mr. Houlihan.
what was his concerns? Just
About
the
pavement,
same day.
Abercrombie
yeah,
Road.
pavement on Abercrombie Road.
Yeah.
In Black Springs,
Yeah.
that corner, and also further down
Yeah.
the road towards Porter's Retreat.
Okay,
Yeah, but
thank
also
you.
there was more than that,
Yeah.
overgrown veg.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
It's Abercrombie Road.
And as you know, other councillors are allowed to ask questions pertaining for information purposes if it's, going to be something you need down the track. So no, that's fine, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's second? I can't remember.
I'll second the recommendation that we receive the reporter's information.
Thank you. Yes, councillor Keller.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. It'd be remiss of me not to make a statement or give you some information regarding media release Councillor O'Grady resignation. Jill resigned from the council in the new year. Our council will sorely miss Jill's input over the next 3.5 years. Jill's a person of such high integrity, hardworking, 100%. She's built a business. It's created a great tourist destination for Oberon, and we're going to miss her. And it was a shame the way she went and the situations that led up to her resigning.
Thank you. Further discussion, councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one question relates to page 74, the community activities section, the second point about Falls Hill site. If it's getting legal advice, it might not be possible to answer the question if there's legal privilege involved, but I'll ask the question anyway, and you can tell me if you can answer it. I'm curious as to what is its legal status, because it's always been confusing. Secondly, do we charge rent and electricity for the facilities there? And thirdly, is there something going on that requires us to go and get some legal advice?
Through the chair, the first two answers is the reason why we went to the legals to start with. There are a number of contracts, there are a number of agencies. It is confusing and we're trying to sort that out. We've engaged with our legal representatives to do that, and they're going to come back to us in the new year with the outcomes on that. They believe they have a way forward, and there's a number of things that we need to do. And yes, it is confusing.
And I can remember Bruce Fitzpatrick years ago coming up with it. It's actually pretty much the same answer. So yes, it's been going on for a long time.
It is, and every time we go there seems to be something else there that we need to look at. So we're trying to get the ducks in a row in terms of, are we getting appropriate rent billing, all that sort of stuff. So it's, yeah.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor McCallum.
Yeah, just two things. In your report, General Manager, we'd have a notation from, that we've lost our fitness manager over there. He might be there somewhere and I can't see it. And the other one was what, the General Manager hasn't put in there. We had a, pollution incident over on the industrial site, and Gary had to intervene and get the thing shut down. So just letting you be aware that he's not just a pretty face, but out there you've got to intervene, and we couldn't find anyone in the council that shut down for Christmas. We've got to change that. But I had to ring Gary and he had to intervene with this pollution. They cut a cement silo open and just let it go out in the ground. They didn't realise it was full of cement.
Through the chair, that is ongoing, and it's a matter that needs absolute attention.
Yeah.
The fitness centre, I would leave to probably Damien, who reports to him to deal with that. He is a big loss He done extraordinary things to the facility, and we're going through a recruitment phase now.
Any further discussion on this matter? If not, I'll put the motion. All in favour? All right, we go to 14.2. Monthly activity report, planning and development, December 2024. Recommendation is report from item 14.2 is received as information. Will move it, please. Councillor Hayden, seconder, please. Councillor McCarthy. Thank you. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move the report. You have a couple of questions, because I always do. The fitness centre report, I have asked this several times, as well as last year, and I think our director knows what I'm going to ask him about the policy and the age policy in keeping with other gyms and across our region at least, and the situation where particular age children should be able to, if they hold membership with their parent, supervised by their parent, be able to access the gym. So I'm just wondering whether there's been time for that policy to start having some advice around it, whether it's in the work, is it coming to council, who's going to implement the policy? We need to get one up and running, because I do believe that those individuals that were going to the gym are no longer going to the gym, and some of their friends are no longer going to the gym. And I'd like to see that we're proactive and we understand our community's needs, that if they are on night shift and other gyms across the region actually run a policy that's workable, that our council should be able to meet the same guidelines of a policy, such as in these larger areas as well. So where's that up to, through the mayor to the...
Through the chair, Councillor Hayden, as you're aware, our former manager is no longer with us. He had done a lot of research in terms of a lot of other gyms in the area. So we've collated that information. However, I'll be waiting until a new manager has been appointed, and then I'll work with that manager and we'll bring a report and an updated policy back to council.
So that through the mayor to the planning director, will that be possibly sometime toward mid-year, so that when spring summer comes around, that we have something that's going to be in place? And
Through the chair, I anticipate before that, and based on some of those members that you did mention, Councillor Hayden, they are still paying their membership fees.
Yeah,
even though they're not
exactly.
spending. So
exactly, and that's one of the things I thought. They want to attend that gym and they are happy to pay their fees. So it would be good to get a policy that's workable, so that they can get back there and not be told two different things. So. And I'm sure everyone understands that situation. Now, also, in regards to the cat dog side, and I did notice, and I was also part of an issue that we've had in Oberon, is around the kittens. And I'm sure council's well aware of it. There'd been 4 kittens over the period in January that were dumped into 4 locations, and those kittens were all from the same litter. 2 of the kittens actually met and knew each other. So I'm very alarmed. These kittens, and then they're just cats. Yeah, they're just cats. These kittens were found. One was found at my workplace. It came up onto the veranda of the house, meowing like it had been dumped out on that Mozart Road and the old Tudors Hill. There was another that was dumped up out at Ginkin, and there was one out at Edith, and there was one down at Duff Malloy. Now, 2 of the kittens have got together. They know that they're from the same litter, I suppose, because they knew each other. They've been kitty litter trained, so they've had human intervention. But, and I want to mention this publicly, because I'm really disgusted that instead of someone taking these animals to a pound or a facility, they've taken them out. They've not just dumped these animals in a big pile. They've taken them to different areas and just dumped them out. And I'm not happy with that. And I just want, and this will be seen all around Oberon, you're disgusting individuals who have done this, even though they could have just, for no fee, surrendered these animals instead of leaving them out there to either become a pest or to starve and die. So I did want to mention that, and I do have a question through our planning
Yeah,
director
please.
in relation to, I noticed that there's ads going on to the council page, and I did actually ask a question for an elderly resident who doesn't have mobile phone and who doesn't have internet. And they asked me if the animals were sexed and vaccinated. And I do note that under the Companion Animals Act and the advertising of animals, I'm not sure that we have any exemption like breeders or anyone else rehoming animals. Shouldn't we be listing that they're vaccinated and microchipped within the advertisements? Could we continue to do that?
Through the chair, we follow the procedure of the Act and regulations.
Just in the advertisements is what I mean, because it says,
We do request if anyone's interested to contact our ranger.
Mm.
There is the office number, it's not a mobile, so they don't need to ring the mobile, they can ring our office number and discuss it with the ranger one-on-one or the office, and we can explain the situation to them if there's inquiries.
okay, if I may, through the mayor to the director of planning, I'm talking about the Companion Animals Act, RSPCA regulations and legislations pertaining to the sale of animals and cats and dogs by any person or any government organisation, that when an ad is put out there in the public, it must state within the ad that the animal is vaccinated and microchipped, even if it's just a small thing. It saves people asking the question, but it also is something that we should be doing as a council. When we put an ad, could we please put if the animal is vaccinated and microchipped in that advertisement? That's all I'm asking and requesting that be done.
So through the chair, if we are rehoming an animal, the costs of microchipping and registering that animal will be borne by the person who in fact
That's
takes
complete.
control of it. So we don't put in there that we've got it vaccinated and microchipped because there's a cost associated with doing that. On the companion animals and what Damo was trying to say was that I believe that if someone rings up, we let them know what the costs are and what we expect prior to them taking the animal out.
But that isn't adhering to the legislation. I'm sorry, through the mayor.
Right, we don't wanna-
No, I really do need to express
No.
this.
I think this can be done outside
No,
by email.
No.
We're getting into the.
Mr Mayor, this is actually legislation.
Fine.
And I
Send the
want,
legislation to the general manager and it'll be looked at in accord, as the general manager said, and he'll come back to you with an answer on that. He has provided an answer to say that when people ring up, we advise them that the cost of vaccination and everything else is such. And
Mr Mayor, if I may, that is not addressing the legislation as it is written, that it must be in any advertisement.
And I'm saying the general manager will come back to you on this.
Thank you.
Right. Any other issues? From the second, please, who was the second now? Councillor McCarthy, sorry.
Okay, there's two things that I wish to rear in this section. One, a great complex being built down there at O'Connor. And, I see now, and I had a bit of a laugh, the young fella assured me that they're building it out of pine board to stop someone putting a hole through the billboard. And I said, what, like happened up at the Showground Hall? Because I knew he was the perpetrator. And the other one is what's happening with the roof toilets? Surely to goodness, we've got to have a sit down and have a workshop and come up with a resolution how to put some money to it and make it work.
I think we're still waiting for the insurance, but we can't do much until we get the insurance money unless we decide as a council to approve a budget allocation in advance of obtaining that insurance. But I might
We
be
get
wrong
the
with that.
insurance, Mr Mayor, there's nothing stopping it going to be cut away and we're back again. It's nearly been 12 months, hasn't it, that facility's been built, not operational.
I'm sure,
So what I'm getting at is when we meet again as a whole council, can't we spend 15 minutes as a workshop and maybe barnstorm some action that can make that thing work up there?
I think the technical services director is probably going to come back to us with a redesign that allows greater security for that facility, and that may be in conjunction with the director of corporate services in relation to security as well. I'm not sure. For the reef, you don't want to vandalise.
Yeah, currently we're looking at replacement of what's been damaged and stolen
Yeah,
through the insurance.
Okay, but I think what Councillor McCarthy is saying is, do we need to enhance what's there so we don't have the same thing happen again?
With regard to theft,
Yes, and security and using angle grinders and everything, that's the problem.
my understanding is with insurance, they replace like for like.
That's
If we
right.
need to allocate additional budget, then that has to be brought back.
That's right. So the question is, I think from Councillor McCarthy is, should we consider doing something different at the reef so that it helps to prevent this happening again? Because if we put the same back that we had, the same thing could happen.
We can consider that, so it will require an additional budget allocation, I would assume, if we want to do anything different there.
Absolutely, but we can't, if this is like, I mean, I think Councillor McCarthy is asking, can you have a look at whether there are alternative strategies or alternative ways that make it less likely that the same sort of incident will happen again? Am I getting it correct?
If I may, and if the director's available tomorrow, I want to talk to the general manager about the swings, and maybe if the director can give me 10 minutes, maybe barnstorm with a few indications of what I perceive that we could do up there and make it vandal-proof, or less vandal-proof, because what's happening up there, we replace like for like. Next day, we could be back. And one thing we should be considering is why it's taking so long for the insurance claim.
I'm through the chair, I'm happy to take that up. The other thing is that security is the thing that we were looking at. Council is aware about the requirements and the issues around when you put cameras in certain locations and what the best outcome for that is. Don't disagree that it needs to be better than what it is, but how much better in a primitive campground? Like we put that infrastructure there, and how do we protect it? How do we best? That might be as simple as a number of cameras and lights in that, but all that once again would require either an allocation or a grant application to support that. But I don't disagree with your comment.
No, or an occupation person on site.
Yeah. Or, well, that's the other option.
Have you finished, Councillor McCarthy? Yes, thank you.
Mr Mayor, I think the idea of the workshop is excellent. I think it's a wonderful asset, and we need to totally look at it from a different angle and get better usage, maybe get some revenue from it too. There was in terms of security, there was an incident over Christmas where a large spray unit was dragged across a paddock, and
Yes.
a number of trees nearby were sprayed with poison on a buffalo farm. So it's an ongoing issue, but don't look at the negatives. It's a wonderful area. We're just going to make it better and protect it.
Okay, so maybe we need to look at some options, but when the insurance money comes available, what better ways can we do it at the rate to make it?
So through the chair, I've reached out to a couple of my colleagues who have this type of stuff. Well, they manage this type of activity, and I'm waiting for them to provide some information to me about potential options, and that workshop may pose a good opportunity to present what that looks like.
Yeah.
Call in at O'Connell and have a look what we're getting. Especially with the master apprentice booth.
All right. I just ask if I could, Director, in relation to the development applications in progress, September 24, 25. I note that there are some that were information received after a stop the clock date of April 24, but the determination has still not been made. That's on page 79. I note that some additional information was provided 8th of October 24 and 9th of October 24, where the determination has still been made. 13th December 24, 29th, that's how to stop the clock. And then we go into January, etc. But some of those are quite early, and are there outstanding for some time? Are there reasons for that?
Through the chair, Mr Mayor, the applications in April 24, the first one was withdrawn. I'm not sure why it came back onto the table. The second one, there was a considerable compliance action happening in between with that BA, and again, I'm not sure why that came back on the table. So it was now determined in December last year, that BA, the second one there. Over the page, the one in October, you mentioned the 8th of October, that was determined on the 29th of October. Again, my table was not updated. The other three down there were all dealt with tonight at the council meeting.
Right,
So the 9th to the 10th one, the 3rd to the 12th, and the 8th to the 1st.
okay.
There were three
They
applications
were
coming
three
tonight.
Okay. Right,
But they were delayed because of not having a meeting in January.
yes, they're all, the rest are all January and February, basically. Okay, thank you.
The table will definitely be updated for the next meeting. Not correct, so.
Okay, any further discussion on this matter? If not, I put the motion, all in favour? Thank you. 14.3, monthly activity report, technical services, February 2025. The recommendation of the report 14.3 is received as information. Have a mover, please. Councillor Hayden, Councillor O'Connor, thank you.
Yes, I'd like to thank, our Director Cornel, our Technical Services Director for this and the other 7 who prepared this report. Couple of things, I'm not going to pick apart a lot of stuff. Chain of ponds, there are still some concerns out there around some soft patches. And I haven't gone to drive out there because my car wouldn't go down there. I'd be stuck up a hill halfway. Anyway, parks and gardens, I noticed out into our portal last Wednesday when we got the notification about the tree and garden maintenance. I'm going to try and say this without being critical, and I don't want any staff to take any offence, but going around town and looking at a majority of the parks like Armstrong Place, unmowed, mess, sticks have fell out of trees and they're just laying in the middle of wherever. We've got some roads I have issues with. I sent an email to the Technical Services Director, and I'm sure she will get back to me in due course around the road surfaces of the residential streets, which are a massive concern. But the parks and the gardens are the things everybody sees. And Herb David Park, I noted today when I was coming into town that just started getting mowed. So I'm pleased it's finally getting mowed, but it wasn't getting mowed with a catcher on the mower. And for such a small area, it's just grass blown everywhere. So it would be really nice that when they do that, that it could be done possibly so it limits the mess. The rose garden that you heard Mrs. Wiseman mention today down in the common, yes, that's correct. It's just there's thistles and weeds among those gardens, that being one of our most centralised ones. When I read the report that we get sent through to the portal and I go and look at the parks that are mentioned, I look and I go, why is that roadside verge not mowed there? Why did they not bother? And they said they picked up the sticks, but the sticks are actually picked up. Yep. And they're thrown under the tree on the road verge. So instead of getting these limbs and taking them away, they're instead being shoved up onto the road verge. And then you look at sections up near where the kindergarten is, up the playgroup, up King Street, I think it's called. And you look along the road verge there, it's just waiting for snakes to just appear when people are walking along. The grass is actually that high. It is actually nearly 3 foot high. And then there were some residents, and along North Street, they said, oh, you're taking photos. I said, yeah, no, I'm just taking some photos of some work that probably should have been done. And they go, yeah, well, we're sick of it. We want our roadside grass mowed. So communities and residents are responsible for their house yards, but they're certainly not responsible for the footpath or the road verges between the footpath and the road. And I'm just wondering if we have enough staff that's covering this amount of work that we've got. And I know there's quite a lot of work that needs to be done. but some that's being listed clearly isn't done. And I get that there are some time constraints and running a bit behind. That's basically that.
Right, councillor Connor.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I recommend technical services report and nothing more.
All right, thanks. Any further discussion on this matter? Councillor Tucker and councillor Cathcart.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of questions or comments. First one, I saw the picture and the mention of using a ridge mower on the bank of the road on Edith Road, which I was interested to see. Yeah, it's been commented any number of times what a problem that is, and I know how hard it is to do it by hand, and not only with the cost of traffic control for an extended period, or people try and do it by whippersnippers or whatever. So a ridge mower is an excellent way to do it, a lot quicker. And we used to have our own ridge mower, and I never knew why it got sold, but maybe we could, if you think there's enough regular work, that might be a solution to keep doing that permanently. Is that how we're likely to maintain that area? And are there many other areas that could be?
I believe so. That's the solution if you want to maintain this vegetated as grassy and not find a different solution. I believe that's how we have to maintain it. And we used, while we have the reed mower here, it's a hard equipment, we use that at other sites as well. But it could be an option to see, well, how often do we use it, and is that something
Yes,
to make?
we're better off buying it as required. Another spot that we might look at is in Queen Street, just past the police station. There's quite a fire bank there that's very difficult to do and usually doesn't get done at all. So that's another one to add to the list. And the other question, page 91, with some quotes about staff doing a good job, and it mentions mowing of the showground. And I'm just curious about, is that something we did? And if so, did we do it as a private work, or what money was used to do it?
Sure. We have an MOU with the Showground Trust.
Okay.
That MOU runs out in June, and we'll have to reconsider what that looks like, because a lot of things have changed since the MOU was put in place, and we need to reconsider.
So the MOU says we'll do
A certain amount of mows and look after a certain amount of things, and for that, council could use their facilities and their areas for.
Yeah.
So back in the day when that was, appropriate, it all worked.
That's another one on the list of sort of under the counter donations that are not under the counter, but donations that don't come under 356.
Which is what we're trying to.
Yeah,
put
that's
in
right.
front.
That's right. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Cathcart.
One direction, the jet patcher, we've got a brand new one sitting in the shed. We've got potholes in the road everywhere. How come it's not being utilised?
Through the chair, I can get back to you in more detail. Currently the works program indicates when it's being used and when not, but I can look into more detail what it stipulates for this particular plant and what staff absence potentially are related to that, but I'm happy to look into that, get back to you in more detail.
Yeah, I just noticed that some of the marked potholes that were there in excess of 6 weeks were filled in with the bitumen bag. I
Through the
thought,
chair, which marked potholes?
if you look around town, there's marked potholes. You got an orange circle around them so that the operator can see that they're there.
Mark them.
Eh?
Oh, through the chair, I actually considered reporting that as a road safety incident, graffiti on the road.
Well,
That's, yeah, okay.
I usually wait 6 weeks to see whether they're fixed. And if they're not fixed in 6 weeks, I highlight them so that we get them fixed, because we've got to pay for our tyres that go into these holes and get busted or got something broken. But what alarmed me is the jet patch is sitting in the shed and not being utilised. We have a heap of holes in the road. And then I come across the sidekick in the water truck. So
Yes.
We're just I didn't know whether it was the old jet patcher and the new one was
Now
out.
the new one sitting in the shed and
Yeah.
it's done a terrific job down Bailey's Lane doing a safety issue down there.
Yep.
But I think that while we've got so many potholes in the roads, it should have been
That's right.
out there being utilised, but anyway. And if we're short of staff, I can't understand why we've got a gate opener in the water truck as well as the operator.
All right,
When
points
they're
noted.
doing work on Lowesmount Road, sorry, I'll clarify.
Technical Services Director will, invoice. Okay, any further discussion on 14.3? Not, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Go to 14.4, which is the monthly activity report of corporate services, December 2024, January 2025. Recommendations report. Item 14.4 is received as information. Of a mover, councillor Hayden, seconder. Councillor McCarthy, councillor Hayden.
Yeah, happy to move the report. Thank you to our Corporate Services Director and all of the staff who's engaged in this. I have a question, if I may, through the Mayor to either the Corporate Services Director or the General Manager regarding the land sale for debt recovery. I understand we've done that workshop. Is there going to be anything else that comes back to councillors for further discussion regarding these rate recovery, debt recovery properties potentially up for sale?
So what sort of, what are you asking for? They're going to come back to us.
Are we getting anything else back? Like we've done a workshop on it. Is there going to be any further discussion regarding them? Like, will we have any information about how many will be going up? Do we need to make any resolutions in that regard of any particular agreeing to that these be sold, etc.?
Well, I think we get the general manager's certificates. Yeah.
In accordance with the workshop that we had, the decision will be made by council, not by
Yeah.
staff or anyone. So a thorough report will come back for your consideration in the near future.
So is that likely to be March?
That's through the chair. It won't be March. I can't give a timer. We're just waiting for the last couple of properties to fall in that 5-year window.
Right.
But we are doing all the prep work that we can to get that moving as quickly as possible. And this is an item that Audit and ARIC are also providing oversight on and providing them with updates as to this process as well.
So we anticipate sort of April or May meetings that there will be basically resolutions in relation to selling some properties for debt recovery. Is that right?
Through the chair, the targeting April for a major update as to that obviously has implications into the next op plan and different things we'll be doing. So yes, but nothing I can foresee in March at this point in time.
Okay, thank you. And I was just also wondering with this internal restrictions review, on drafting the policy for presentation at the next ARIC meeting, will these policies that are being discussed, will that be coming back to council for an approval before going to ARIC? How's that going to be working?
Through the chair, so we have a reserves workshop scheduled
Yes,
for the
March.
3rd of March.
Mhm.
So that workshop, we're scoping that, but that will be an introduction of the draft policy that we will be taking to ARIC for further input, and also a more in-depth discussion around the individual reserves and what
Mhm.
we would like to do with them going forward.
And, I don't need to reiterate about the community services and stuff. I've had answers around 355. And, I'm just wondering, it's probably more a finance question, but this is one of the issues that I had without our committees being operable. And I noticed in here about the, secondary internet connection at Box Springs and installation of CCTV cameras and keyless locks, possibly incorporated into future grant applications. This is one of the things I had issues with, like, I might have to send an email and get any information on internal reserves that we could possibly have to allocate. Because while ever we're waiting for the grant funding, which could be quite a significant amount of time unless we get this Black Springs Hall Committee up and running, and we could make some suggestions through that where some grant funding can be allocated from, because, you know, the security of the hall overall is a priority. So, there are just a few issues that, yeah.
Yeah, through the chair, the CCTV cameras and new locks, are, I believe, going in next week. So, the security of those facilities, we see as a council ongoing issue, and we'll liaise with the committees, you know, but that one we've been, had in train for quite some time. So, yeah, I believe the locks have arrived and they're going in next week.
Okay, so is the allocation of that coming out of what, the maintenance budget for the hall?
Yeah,
The
that's,
overall
yeah,
maintenance
that's
side of
a
it?
general maintenance asset security.
And will security grills be part of that one, or is that going to be completely different again?
Through the chair, no, the grills are not funded. We have some options. We're assisting Black Springs Community Association to put those forward as there's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Closing them this week, but
Yeah.
at this point, they are not funded, so we need to consider council wishes to put those cream safe on.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Councillor McCarthy.
Suppose I missed my opportunity, but in the back of Matty's report, the, Mr. Webb's report, the drought resilience project, is the four Black Springs that we got most of the money for out there, is it working?
So this, or through the chair, this particular project is related to drought resilience planning and a number of things that they've done through that. The first stage of implementation is focusing on trying to streamline agri-tourism approvals and those type of things. So I'm not aware of the situation of that more, but I can take.
The only reason I brought it up is that's where we got the money from originally. But we need to know whether that one at Black Springs is, well, I thought it was cemented months ago, and is it up and running? Does anyone know?
You're going to check yourselves.
Through
The card reader.
the chair, the water fill station at Black Springs and O'Connell, we had a contact to our project engineer from the people that installed the software and commissioned it. But they hadn't contacted us back if they were successfully completed, if they had successfully completed the activity. So we need to actually follow up what is it not working, and then that still has to be completed with installation of insulation and cages.
All right,
Okay.
Yeah. That's all that is.
okay, thank you.
Right, any further discussion on this matter? So I put the motion, all in favour? Thank you, carried unanimously. 14.5, grants update, January 2025. Recommendations of report item 14.5 is received as information. Mover, please. Councillor McCarthy and Councillor O'Connor. Thank you, Councillor McCarthy.
It's pretty straightforward, just a bit disappointing, all these pendings. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. I recommend the report, no further information.
I've got a quick one, the housing support program, page 99 and 100. Obviously that was submitted 18th of July 24, and now just about over 6 months from that. Any update as to whether, when or if we're likely to get a response on that one?
Yes, through the chair, we, after completion of this report, it hasn't been confirmed yet, but it seems that we were not successful in that grant program. That information has come to a second hand in a media release that we have been searching through, but nothing official from the grant authority or anything at this point in time. But from the information we've seen, it's not looking good.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Councillor Hayden.
Yes, thank you. I was pleased to see that, the grant came through successful for the $1,500 for Burriga. Now, I'm just wondering if I don't think that's going to be enough for the Burriga War Memorial refresh, is it? Because by memory, it needed stonework and some, electrical fittings for the light that's been damaged.
Well, I think the appropriate thing is to put this to the next Burriga community meeting, discuss it with them and see what they believe they can get done for the 1,500.
But that was what it was for, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
that's okay.
they then have to look at that, note that. So we were sending them notification or mess.
Yep.
No, that be considered the next meeting.
And it's a bit disappointing that we didn't get the grants for the blisters and the guard railing out on Losemount Road. I'm just wondering what we're going to do moving forward, coming into winter, with some of those high sections of road out on Losemount Road, on those curves, some of those dangerous areas that's going to need some guardrail. Might be worthwhile when we have that discussion through the next works committee meeting or working party meeting, because coming into winter and ice, I'm very worried about that road. And I was looking at that Australian Government Department of Home Affairs Australian Cyber Security Strategy Program. I noticed that's over a period of time, that 35 grand that's been applied for. How's that training going to be implemented if we get grant?
So through the check, we've secured that grant.
Oh, you've
We
secured
have
that.
secured
it's been
it.
awarded.
If I haven't-
Okay, I didn't notice that
Quite
one.
recently, we are currently compiling a program with NBN and related partners to take that to in and around the LGA to deliver those workshops. So I think there'll be some good workshops. They'll also include a day of tech help. So we might station people at Black Springs and Burriga, O'Connell, to do these sort of day of tech help and cyber awareness. So and we can do that over 3 years, which is good. So yeah, just confirming dates. They're likely to be in May.
So there's been no feedback on the sewage construction one either, has there?
Yeah, we just discussed that.
It's not nothing
Oh, right.
official at this point.
Nothing official, but
We have found some
there's an indication we may not have been successful. That was discussed a minute ago.
press release. It.
Yeah, sorry, I only heard the words housing support program. I didn't hear that it was the sewage construction one. So
Right.
not a problem. Thank you.
So General Manager has a meeting with Infrastructure New South Wales tomorrow, so we'll probably find out definitively.
Mhm.
No, the general manager's going to.
All right, anything else? Okay, if not, I put the motion. All in favour? Thank you. We now go to investments 14.6. Investments January 2025. The recommendations of the report item 14.6 is received as information. Can move it, please. Councillor O'Connor, second, Councillor Carthy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I recommend the investment January 2025 and no further information.
Councillor Carthy?
Report's pretty straightforward, but is the interest received on our earning money 24-25, is it already allocated to a fund? Or
Yes.
is it out there?
Through the chair, we budget for that interest and
Okay.
the actual allocation that we speaking about earlier with the 150 was done through the QBR where we had a very initial conservative projection. So yes, we did
Okay.
factor that into the.
Thank you.
Page 102. I note the unrestricted cash is in the negative. Is that just an accounting problem or what is that?
Yeah, through the chair, that problem has come about, well, not a problem, but that has arisen from two things. We still have some audit and annual report tidying up that we've been doing on earlier LRCI 1, 2 and 3. So while we've incurred that expenditure, we yet to unrestrict that. So it is a timing thing, but we are working through that. So that money's about 650 is due. We've just done a clean audit and have submitted those annual reports, so we're expecting that, that money soon, so that is a timing issue.
Could I suggest if this happens again, that we certainly have a note to reflect what the situation is, because it's not good as having a investment report that indicates a negative unrestricted cash position of 426,000. So just put a note, if we could ask Zoe to put a note there next time to explain what you've said, it's just a timing issue. Yeah, it just doesn't look good on the account, I think. All right, any further matters? If not, I put the motion, all in favour? 14.7 is status of council resolution February 2025. Recommendations report 14.7 is received information. Remove it, please. Councillor Hayden, seconder. Councillor McCarthy, thank you.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'm going to move the recommendation. I do have a variety of questions. I did want to note, however, that the time is now after 10 p.m. at night, and I note that staff are sitting at the table looking extremely tired. I would also like to just note this as that, and I would like to put forward an urgent notice of motion after we finish with the next item.
Seconder, Councillor McCarthy.
Straightforward, thank you.
I note that I have put some questions and comments to the general manager in relation to a number of items here. Noting the time, I would also ask that maybe that table could be completed.
Through the chair, more than happy to complete the table and refer them on.
And provided all councillors, yes, because I just had, there's some update areas I wasn't completely up front with all the work. So subject to that, I've put the motion, all in favour? Here, we go to 14.8, questions taken on notice at the previous meeting. Recommendation of report 14.8 is received as information and responses noted. Move it, please. Councillor Hayden, seconder. Councillor Tucker, Councillor Hayden.
Yes, happy to move. Nothing further to add, Mr Mayor.
Nothing to add, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, put the motion, all in favour? Thank you.
Would like to move urgent business.
Move to urgent business.
I just thought, considering the time, it's now after 10 p.m. We have staff that need to travel distances to get home. We are now on to the confidential section of our business, and I'm just wondering whether we hold this business over to a later time or call an extraordinary meeting to hold urgent business next week, the week after. Sorry, we could be another hour or two on the confidential business.
Do we have a seconder for your motion? No seconder, so the motion lapses. So I note that therefore that there is no further business. Could I have someone close session confidential reports? In accordance with the Local Government Act 1993 and the Local Government General Regulations 2005, in the opinion of the General Manager, the following business of kind referred to as Section 282 Act and should be dealt with part of the meeting closed to the media and public. 16.1, tender RFT 24.9, supply of traffic control services. 16.2, tender RFT 24.08, spray bituminous and aggregate supply. 16.3, tender RFT 24.10, full or partial stabilisation service. 16.4, tender RFT 24/11, line marking services. And 16.5, electricity procurement, Central New South Wales joint organisation procurement. 16.6, construction of 11 lot industrial subdivision Oberon. Do I have someone to move us into confidential, please? Councillor Tremar, second. Councillor Hayden, all in favour? Thank you. Could the recording cease, please? Good evening, everyone. Back in open session. During the confidential section of this meeting, the following resolutions were passed. 16.1, tender RFT 24.9, supply of traffic control services. The motion passed was that council endorses the recommendations of the tender evaluation panel and accepts a panel of suppliers for traffic control services 2x2 year options, maximum allowable contract period of 4 years, tender reference RFT 2409. 2, Midwest Traffic Management Orange Proprietary Limited, Work Control Operations Proprietary Limited, and DC Civil Enterprises Proprietary Limited, the council's preferred suppliers. 3, the formal instrument of agreement and any other associated documents be executed on behalf of the council in accordance with clause 165 of the local government regulations by the general manager and delegate the director of technical services as the principal's representative. 16.2, tender RFT 2408, spray bituminous and aggregate supply. The motion passed by council was that council endorsed the recommendation of the tender evaluation panel, accept a panel of suppliers for sprayed bituminous and aggregate supply services 2x2 year options, maximum allowable contract period of 4 years. Tender reference RFT 24-08 with Fulton Hogan Industries Proprietary Limited, Stabilised Pavements of Australia SPA Proprietary Limited, Roadworks Proprietary Limited, Building and Civil Proprietary Limited, all being council's preferred suppliers. 2, authorise the general manager to execute the formal instrument of agreement and any other associated documents in accordance with clause 165 of the local government regulations with the director of technical services as the principal's representative. 16.3, tender RFT 2410, full or partial stabilisation services. The motion passed by council was that council endorses the recommendation of the tender evaluation panel, accepts a panel of suppliers for full or partial stabilisation services, 2x2 year options, maximum allowable contract period of 4 years. Tender reference RFT 2410. 2, Stabilised Pavements of Australia Proprietary Limited, Fulton Hogan Industries Proprietary Limited, Roadwork Servicing Proprietary Limited, Downer EDI Proprietary Limited, Stable Corp Proprietary Limited, Denrith Proprietary Limited, Peters Earth Moving Proprietary Limited, Evo Hire Proprietary Limited, be council's preferred suppliers. 3, the formal instrument of agreement and any other associated documents be executed on behalf of the council in accordance with clause 165 of local government regulations by the general manager and delegate the director of technical services as the principal's representative. 16.4. Tender RFT 24/11 line marking services. The motion passed by council was that council endorses the recommendation of the tender evaluation panel and accepts a panel of suppliers for line marking services 2x2 year options, maximum allowable contract period of 4 years. Tender reference RFT 24-11. 2, ACT Line Marking Proprietary Limited, Avanti Line Marking, Oz Line Marking New South Wales Proprietary Limited, and New South Wales Building and Civil Proprietary Limited are council's preferred suppliers. 3, the formal instrument of agreement and any other associated documents be executed on behalf of the council in accordance with clause 165, the local government regulation by the general manager and delegate the director of technical services as the principal's representative. 16.5. Electricity procurement, Central New South Wales Joint Organisation procurement. The motion passed by council was that council, 1, note the report on electricity procurement for small market sites. 2, participates in the regional procurement process facilitated by the Central New South Wales Joint Organisation for the supply of electricity for small market sites. 3, note the extreme volatility of the energy market currently being experienced. 4, agree to purchase 50% of renewable energy for each site. 5, note the short time frame for acceptance of offers for the supply of electricity. 6, resolve that because of the extenuating circumstances set out in the report, a satisfactory result would not be achieved by inviting tenders for the aggregate procurement of electricity for small market sites, which are due to commence on 1st of January 2025. 7, note the reasons for the decision of council in resolution 6 are as follows. A, the services with respect to which the tender relates can only be provided by energy retailers. B, council has received expert advice that due to the nature of the relevant market, offers from these retailers, which will be made in response to the request for tender, will only be open for acceptance for a period of 1 to 2 weeks. C, even if the tender period was short to 7 days, as permitted under the regulations, some, if not all, of the relevant tenders would expire prior to council being able to undertake an assessment of tenders, report the matter to council and resolve to accept or reject any tenders. D, This would result in council either having no valid tenders, which it is able to accept, or it would not be able to consider for acceptance all the tenders lodged in response to the request for tender. E, this would not be a satisfactory result for council. 8, delegate the determination, acceptance or rejection of proposal on behalf of council to the general manager. 9, delegation for the execution of the contract with supplier electricity for small sites to the general manager. 10, receive a report and conclusion of the process detailing the outcome. And 11, advise the Central New South Wales Joint Organisation of its decision. 16.6, construction of 11 lot industrial subdivision Oberon. The motion that was passed by council was that a project report be presented to the March 2025 ordinary meeting detailing the variations within the report, the cost of work to date of that report, and the project total cost of the project. Thank you, everyone. The next meeting of council will be held on 18th of March 2025, commencing at 5:30 p.m. in these council chambers. I declare this meeting closed at 11:15 p.m.